What do you do when the life you've worked so hard to build begins to unravel in a way no one could have foreseen? April Holt was a mother, a coach, and an influencer with a voice that inspired over 200,000 people. She preached hope, resilience, and the power of manifesting the life you deserve. To her followers, she was the embodiment of joy, a beacon for anyone fighting through life's struggles. But on a quiet summer morning in July 2023, the unthinkable happened. A plastic bag, tape, and a 7-year-old child's voice on the other side of a door would become the chilling remnants of a day that would forever change everything. How could a woman so full of life, who gave so much to others, end up silenced in such a way? And why did the answers feel so close, yet just out of reach? This is the story of a fight for truth. A fight led by a grieving mother who refused to accept the simple explanations. A fight that revealed just how fragile trust can be, even in the people we believe we know best. Welcome to True Crime Theatre HQ. For more stories like this one, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next crime stories like this, and don't forget to share them with your friends. April Holt was a woman who knew how to turn hardship into hope, or so it seemed. From her modest beginnings as a lash technician, April's determination propelled her toward a life of independence and success. She didn't just build a career, she built a brand, one that radiated positivity and resilience. Online, she was more than a mother or a wife. She was a beacon of inspiration for over 200,000 followers who hung on her every word. Her videos were a mix of wisdom and warmth, offering motivation to those searching for purpose. She spoke about overcoming struggles with a confidence that made you believe she had found the secret to happiness. Her message was simple, yet powerful: progress over perfection. To her audience, she was living proof that no matter the odds, life could be beautiful, and her family seemed to be the heart of that beauty. April's love for her 2 children, Serenity and Denzel, was unmistakable. Her TikToks often showcased tender moments, a proud mum cheering on her daughter's milestones or laughing alongside her playful young son. It was the kind of content that made people smile, dream, and believe in the possibility of having it all. If the kind of content did not define the possibility of having it all, her marriage to Donovan too was part of the story she shared. They weren't just partners, they were best friends. Together they had faced financial struggles, health scares, and even a separation. Yet, April framed these challenges as stepping stones on a journey to greater strength and love. She presented their relationship as unshakable, a bond that could weather any storm. But every storm leaves a mark, and April's life was no exception. What her followers saw was a polished highlight reel, one that seemed almost too good to be true. The cracks were subtle, nearly invisible, but they were there. Small moments of vulnerability hidden in between the laughter and encouragement. What no one could know then was that those cracks were growing. The smiles, the laughter, the loving moments, were they just fragments of a dream that April was desperately trying to hold together? Behind the posts, behind the carefully chosen words, was there a silent cry for help no one had heard? July 28, 2023 began like any other day in the Holt household. The sun poured through the windows as April sipped her morning coffee, a ritual she cherished. Her journal lay open, pages filling with gratitude and affirmations, simple reminders of the positivity she so often shared with her followers. It was a peaceful start, the kind of morning that felt like a fresh beginning. But the peace didn't last. In the quiet moments that followed, tension began to rise. Words were exchanged between April and Donovan, words that her 7-year-old son Denzel would later struggle to describe. The argument, muffled behind the closed bathroom door, was intense enough for the boy to press his ear against it, trying to make sense of the heated tones spilling into the hallway. What he could understand left him unsettled. Denzel crouched, peeking under the door, where he saw both his parents' feet planted firmly, standing, arguing, locked in a moment he couldn't comprehend. When the sound stopped, he retreated to his room, confused and frightened. Moments later, his father entered, unusually calm, helping him get dressed and preparing him something to eat. But then came the moment that would haunt Denzel forever. Donovan, in an almost detached manner, asked his young son to check on his mother. Little Denzel, still unsure of what was happening, obeyed. He made his way to the bathroom, pushed open the door, and saw the unimaginable. His mother, lifeless in the shower. A plastic bag was taped over her head. The once warm glow of her presence replaced with a stillness that was impossible to ignore. The frantic call to 911 followed, but for those who loved April, it was already too late. She was rushed to the hospital, her body unresponsive, her fate hanging by a thread. And while the medical staff fought to save her, questions began to swirl. Questions that no one seemed willing to answer. Why wasn't Donovan in shock? Why did he seem so composed, even as April's life slipped away? And why, just hours after her death, did it seem like the investigation into what happened was already being tied up with a neat bow, a plastic bag taped over her head? A husband whose actions didn't add up, a case that would soon be closed. Too soon. Ere the call came, Jamie Dickerson's world crumbled in an instant. Her vibrant, resilient daughter, April, was gone. The hospital staff delivered the news with clinical detachment, while law enforcement's explanation was even colder. Suffocation. No foul play. A tragedy of April's own making, they claimed. But Jamie didn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. This wasn't the daughter she knew. April was strong, deeply devoted to her children, and full of hope for the future. The idea that she would leave her family behind so suddenly, so violently, didn't make sense. Something was missing. Something the authorities weren't seeing, or perhaps weren't willing to see. Jamie's first visit to the hospital left her shaken, not just by the loss, but by the evidence staring back at her. As she stood beside April's motionless body, she saw what the police report had ignored: bruises on her neck, marks on her thighs and ankles, and a deep gash on her inner leg. These weren't the signs of a simple tragedy. Then there was the plastic bag and the duct tape. Items that seemed chillingly out of place in her daughter's final moments. When Jamie learned that the tape carried only one set of fingerprints, her suspicions turned to certainty. Those prints didn't belong to April. They belonged to someone else. The weight of the truth began to settle, and with it came a fire. Jamie wasn't just a grieving mother, she was a warrior. And this was a battle she refused to lose. She challenged the official conclusion, refusing to accept what felt like a hasty dismissal of her daughter's life. Her questions were relentless. Who had harmed April? Why was the case closed so quickly? What else had been overlooked? Her fight wasn't just for answers, it was for justice. Justice for the woman whose life had been stolen, for the children who had lost their mother, and for the truth, buried beneath a web of negligence and indifference. Jamie didn't just sit and wait for the system to work. She became the system, poring over records, contacting experts, and gathering evidence herself. With every discovery, she came closer to uncovering the truth. A truth that someone had gone to great lengths to hide. April and Donovan Holt's story began like many others, a friendship that blossomed into love. They were young, hopeful, and eager to build a life together. April often shared glimpses of their relationship with her followers, framing it as a partnership rooted in friendship and resilience. In their videos, they laughed, teased, and reflected on the hurdles they had overcome. To the outside world, it seemed like a story of enduring love, a bond that had survived against all odds. But what wasn't always visible were the cracks that had long been forming beneath the surface. Their marriage, while celebrated online, was marked by struggles that rarely made it to April's TikTok feed. Financial hardships weighed heavily on them, as did bouts of depression and serious health issues. There were separations, moments when the strain became too much and they chose to step away from each other. Yet, each time, they found their way back. Or at least, that's what April wanted to believe. She framed their reconciliations as triumphs of love and forgiveness, a testament to their ability to grow together. But those closest to her wondered if this was more about maintaining appearances than healing wounds. By July 2023, their marriage was reaching its breaking point. April had filed for divorce just weeks before her death. A decision she confided to her mother was final this time. She wasn't backing down, even as Donovan tried to hold on to the illusion of their partnership. Behind closed doors, the tension grew unbearable. And then there was the wedding ring. Just a week before April's death, Donovan had pawned his ring. To Jamie, April's mother, this act wasn't just practical, it felt ominous. A symbol of a man who was preparing to let go of a life he had once vowed to cherish. On the morning of July 28th, an argument erupted between them. One of many, but this time it carried a weight that neither of them could have predicted. What happened in that bathroom was the culmination of years of unresolved pain, anger, and frustration. Was this the breaking point of a toxic cycle, where love and resentment collided? Or was it something much darker? Something deliberate, calculated, and far more sinister? These are the questions that lingered in the days and months that followed, haunting those who dared to search for the truth. Jamie Dickerson wasn't the type to back down, not when it came to her daughter, and certainly not when it came to the truth. From the moment she saw the bruises on April's body, she knew the official story didn't add up. The authorities had labeled her daughter's death as a tragedy, a case closed without a second glance. But Jamie wasn't about to let her daughter's voice be silenced by negligence. She turned her grief into action. With the case closed, Jamie took to social media, sharing April's story in raw, unfiltered posts that captured the love she had for her daughter and the suspicions she couldn't shake. She called out local media outlets, demanding they cover the case, and reached out to anyone who might amplify her voice. Each day brought new barriers, doors that refused to open, calls that went unanswered. But Jamie pushed forward. When no one would listen, she took matters into her own hands. She filed formal complaints, demanding accountability and a reinvestigation. It wasn't just about April anymore. It was about holding a system accountable for its failure to see what was painfully clear. Months of tireless effort finally paid off. The Metro Nashville Police Department reopened the case, producing a detailed 47-page report. Though the reinvestigation upheld its initial conclusion, it provided Jamie with a critical piece of evidence: the fingerprints on the tape used to seal the plastic bag over April's head. Those prints belonged to Donovan. Armed with this revelation, Jamie made a bold decision. She confronted Donovan directly, determined to hear the truth from his own lips. It was a meeting fraught with tension, years of unresolved pain hanging in the air. And then, the confession. Donovan admitted that he had strangled April during an argument, later staging the scene to conceal what he had done. For Jamie, it was a moment of validation but also profound heartbreak. The man who had once vowed to love and protect her daughter had stolen her life instead. But even this wasn't enough. Jamie wasn't just uncovering the truth. She was taking on a system that had failed her daughter from the very start. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Justice for April wasn't just about punishing her killer. It was about ensuring that no other mother would have to fight this hard to prove what should have been obvious all along. In September 2024, after more than a year of relentless advocacy by Jamie Dickerson, the wheels of justice finally began to turn. Donovan Holt, who had been living in Texas since shortly after April's death, was arrested by authorities. The man who had once portrayed himself as a loving husband and father was now in custody, facing the consequences of his... Donovan's confession to Jamie had been the critical piece of evidence that reopened the case. He admitted to strangling April in the heat of an argument, staging the scene with a plastic bag and tape to make it appear as though her death had been self-inflicted. The details were chilling, but they were enough to secure his arrest and extradition. Back in Tennessee, Donovan was charged with reckless homicide, evidence tampering, and false reporting. But for Jamie, the charges fell far short of justice. Reckless homicide suggested an act without intent, something impulsive, careless, even accidental. To Jamie, this wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. It was murder. Her fight wasn't over. Jamie began advocating for the charges to be upgraded to first-degree murder, arguing that the evidence pointed to a premeditated act. She highlighted the timeline. Donovan had pawned his wedding ring a week before April's death. He had argued with her that morning, then sent their son to find her lifeless body, while he stayed behind, calm and composed. And she'd done just that. She left her door open, terror making her pupils shrink. To Jamie, these were the actions of a man who had planned and executed a heinous act, not someone who had made a tragic mistake in the heat of the moment. Jamie also pushed for the inclusion of child endangerment charges, pointing to the trauma inflicted on April's children. Serenity and Denzel had lost their mother in the most devastating way, and Denzel had been forced to discover her lifeless body, an experience no child should ever endure. As Donovan awaited his arraignment, Jamie continued to use every tool at her disposal to demand justice. She knew that the legal system wasn't always fair or thorough, but she refused to let her daughter's case be another example of its failings. "This isn't just about April," Jamie would later say. "This is about ensuring that her children grow up knowing that their mother's life mattered. That no one, not even someone she trusted, could take that away without consequence." The fight was far from over. For Jamie, the battle for justice wasn't just about punishment. It was about restoring dignity to her daughter's memory and ensuring her voice was heard, even in death. In the wake of April Holt's tragic death, Jamie Dickerson faced a dual challenge: grieving her beloved daughter while stepping into the role of caretaker for her two grandchildren, Serenity and Denzel. Their young lives had been upended in unimaginable ways, and Jamie knew that providing them with stability and love was now her most important mission. Mornings became a mix of routine and reflection. Serenity and Denzel, though resilient in their own way, carried the weight of a loss they couldn't fully understand. Jamie enrolled them in grief counseling, where they began to unpack the emotions that came with losing their mother. The nights were often harder. Denzel's nightmares and Serenity's quiet tears were a reminder of the trauma they were all working to heal. Jamie's home became a sanctuary, filled with laughter when they could muster it and comfort when they couldn't. But Jamie's fight didn't end at her front door. Determined to turn her pain into purpose, she became an advocate against domestic violence, using her voice to shed light on the hidden dynamics that can lead to such tragedies. She spoke openly about April's story, not just to honor her memory, but to educate others about the warning signs of unhealthy relationships. She poured her grief into writing, channeling her emotions into a series of books that shared her journey. Grieving Through Grace became more than just a memoir. It was a guide for others navigating the storm of loss. In it, she offered hope to those who, like her, were searching for meaning in the wake of tragedy. Proceeds from the book went toward supporting her advocacy efforts, ensuring that April's story would continue to make a difference. Jamie also wrote for the youngest hearts affected by loss. Her children's book, Grieve With Me, was crafted to help Serenity, Denzel, and other children understand their feelings and find ways to cope. It became a tool for healing, not just in her home, but for countless others who read it. Through it all, Jamie's resilience shone through. She refused to let April's life be reduced to a tragic headline or a closed case file. "This isn't just my story," Jamie would say. "It's April's story, and I'm going to make sure the world knows how much she mattered." Her advocacy reached far and wide, resonating with survivors of domestic violence and families of those lost to similar tragedies. Jamie's work became a testament to her strength, a way to honor her daughter by ensuring that her legacy lived on. Through tragedy, Jamie wasn't just surviving, she was building something enduring. April's voice, silenced too soon, continued to echo through her mother's relentless pursuit of justice, love, and change. And in that, her story would never truly end. April Holt's life was a testament to resilience. Through every challenge she faced, she radiated strength and positivity, touching the lives of countless people who followed her journey. Her world was filled with light, a light she shared with her children, her family, and the community she built online. But even the brightest smiles can hide the deepest shadows, and April's tragic death revealed a darkness that demanded to be confronted. For Jamie Dickerson, April wasn't just a victim of a broken system or a failed relationship. She was a daughter, a mother, and a woman who deserved so much more than the ending she received. Jamie's relentless fight for justice wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about ensuring that no other mother, child, or family would have to endure the pain her family has faced. April's story is one of love, hope, and unimaginable loss, Jamie has said. But it's also a story of strength, of standing up for what's right, even when the odds are against you. She deserved justice, and I won't stop until she gets it. As the fight continues, Jamie's voice grows louder, a beacon for those who have been silenced by violence and dismissed by the systems meant to protect them. Her story is a reminder that justice doesn't come easily, but for those we've lost, it's a fight worth every step. Justice doesn't come easy, but some stories demand it. Thank you for joining us as we uncover the heartbreaking story of April Holt, a life full of hope, resilience, and love, cut tragically short. What are your thoughts on April Holt's case? Do you believe justice has been served, or is there more that needs to be done? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe in uncovering the truths that deserve to be heard, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Together, we'll explore more untold truths, one case at a time. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll never miss crime stories like this, and don't forget to share them with your friends.